I now recognize Mr. James for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Madam Acting Secretary, thank you for being here today. I'm sure that these proceedings are a bit exhausting. I was a pilot in the Army, and I remember my oral examinations. I appreciate you being here. But I have some very important questions for my district. Franchising is one of the surest ways for Americans to achieve the American dream. As a walking recipient and result of the American dream, my father came up from the Jim Crow South with a truck, a trailer, and no excuses, was able to achieve something he didn't even think was possible. He was able to pass a very profitable automotive logistics business to his family now, and through franchising, many folks in my district and around the country are able to achieve a better future for themselves and for their families. But there's growing concern that one of my new neighbors, among one of my new neighbors in Shelby Township, a franchise owner, based upon what she's hearing, it appears that joint employer policies coming from the DOL and the Biden administration as a whole will disrupt not just her business model, but the franchising business model. That pathway to prosperity for so many Americans will be disrupted. She asked me to tell you and relay to the Biden administration that she has the right to fully own and run her business. She has mortgaged and sacrificed for it, and she needs your help in protecting that American dream. Those policies run contrary to that. If these policies are enacted, specific to joint employer policies, she fears that her business will be shut down or that she will cede her operational control to the federal government. And we all understand exactly what ceding business and the modes of production to federal government means. I would like to know, so I can tell her, why does it seem so often that the administration is adversarial to businesses, DOL in particular, through policies that cast entrepreneurs aside?
Congressman, thank you so much for that question. I think you can tell her that for me, my family also owned a franchisee business. My parents went from, my dad flipped burgers as a new immigrant. He exchanged coins in a casino when that was actually still a job to do, right? Bills for coins. My mom worked temp jobs. My parents owned a franchisee business too, and just as you described, it helped them to move from insecurity to security. It was the reason why my parents were able to pay for both my sister and me to go to college. So
That's
I
wonderful.
believe in
So given your background, your personal family experience, you agree that franchise owners are small businesses?
Yeah, absolutely, they can be. I mean, many of them are, yes.
Outstanding. And so given your personal experience, can you commit to no more additional rulemaking on joint employment?
Thank you, Congressman. I really appreciate the opportunity to have a discussion about these issues, because sometimes I think we talk past each other about things. I do not have, there is no rule about joint employer on the Department of Labor's agenda at all.
So that's a commitment to no additional rulemaking on joint employment.
There's nothing on our agenda to do a joint employer rule.
But things change. Things change. Can I have your commitment, given your family's background and your personal experience and the fact that small business owners are the pathway to the American dream? Can I have your commitment today?
You have my commitment to continue to work closely with small businesses to make sure that what we are doing honors their struggle, honors their work. I'm not answering that question directly only because I think whatever we do, it's inappropriate for me to say with certainty. There are lots of things that
Well, I think a commitment to the American dream is worthy of a direct answer. Given your family's experience, just the additional rulemaking, if I can take that back to her, further commitment. You've already said that it's not on the agenda. If we can continue that forward, that would be great for folks, entrepreneurs, and franchisees all over the country who are depending on this business model to succeed.
I mean, Congressman, let me say it this way. I do not have plans to do that. If I did, I would have put it on the agenda. There's nothing on our agenda that would suggest that we're going to do a joint employer rule. What may be causing confusion, and what I think has been clarified here, is that there are other agencies that are pursuing such
I think
rules.
the
They're
fear
not
comes
affiliated
is
with
once
the
you are
Department of Labor.
confirmed, there have been very little that the federal government has done to engender trust amongst the American people. And I was looking for a confirmation that you would at least leave that one alone so we can have some sort of stability as folks try to achieve the American dream. It looks like we do not have that commitment. We'll have to circle back later. Thank you for your time, Madam Acting Secretary.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. James. Ms. Letlow, you are recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairwoman, and thank you, Acting Secretary, for taking the time to be before this committee. And it's important that Congress and this administration continue to invest in rural communities, such as my district. I serve 24 parishes, and create opportunities to help these areas flourish and grow. Organizations in my district have benefited from the Labor Department programs like Youth Build. Since 2001, North Shore Technical Community College in Bogalusa, Louisiana, has hosted a highly successful Youth Build program in a rural, impoverished area. And I am told that this program has an impressive degree or certificate completion rate of 96%. That is above the average post-program placement rate, with many students choosing to go on to attend North Shore Community College to further their education. Unfortunately, this department did not award Bogalusa's program in the latest Youth Build grant competition. And it's my understanding that this department instead prioritized awarding grants to a number of new applicants, while many long-standing successful programs were shut out. I'm extremely disappointed with this outcome, as are my constituents. And some of the feedback that the department provided on North Shore's application is that it did not do enough to promote green jobs, ensure post-program employment will allow students the opportunity to collectively bargain and form or join a union, and increase equity in apprenticeships for people of color and women. This is an odd conclusion because I am told that at least half of the Bogalusa program's participants are minorities and women. Acting Secretary, why did the department start pushing its own agenda items over the original intent of the program, which is providing education, workforce development, and life and leadership skills for out-of-school youth? And why did the department not prioritize proven performance metrics of successful, long-standing programs just like the one in Bogalusa?
Thank you very much for that question, Congresswoman. I will say that in general, the things that you said, they're consistent with how I view the need to, we should support programs that actually prepare people in communities that, including in rural communities, right, where they might not always enjoy the investments or understand that, right, government is there to also support them. I agree that we should use data-driven, right, proven models. I don't have the specifics on the issue that you are asking about. I do know that we have a workforce opportunities in rural communities grant, different from Youth Build, but specifically to invest in rural communities, specifically recognizing that there are specific needs, that some of those needs have not always been met, and would be happy to make sure that you and your constituents are aware of other grant programs that we have. I'm sorry, I don't have the detail on exactly what the decision
Sure.
was in the program that you were talking about.
I'd love to hear your details about it, because that was the feedback that we received, that it was about not being able to join a union or green initiatives. And this Youth Build program has been incredibly beneficial for my district since 2001. So it's devastating that they were denied this year. I want to switch gears. The change in H-2A adverse effect wage rate methodology will tremendously increase the wage rate for H-2A workers in certain job classifications. I believe this is probably the most detrimental rule that has hit Louisiana agriculture in recent years and has created a firestorm throughout U.S. agriculture. For example, in Louisiana, H-2A workers who drive sugarcane trucks from the field to the sugar mill will have the wage rate change from $13.67 to $22.60 per hour. That is almost a 9-hour increase in 1 year. The impact to Louisiana sugarcane harvest drivers alone will cost sugarcane farmers in my state an additional $37 million in additional wages. The impact is not specific to sugar. The impact is this severe to many other commodities in my district and across the nation. And I must insist the estimated impact of the March 30th, 2023 H-2A wage rule of $100 million has been grossly underestimated and will cause a severe hardship for the U.S. agriculture industry. Acting Secretary, can you tell me if the department solicited meaningful input from the agriculture industry prior to promulgating the rule?
Thank you so much for that question, Congresswoman. So as you're referring to, right, the H-2A program, one of its components is to make sure that there isn't an adverse effect on U.S. workers by using the program. And that's what the adverse effect wage rate that you're talking about refers to. As I've said here, we, as a department, we are very, very deliberative in the creation of any rules, and we do engage with stakeholders, with interested parties to fully understand the impact of our rules, to make sure that we're taking account the multiple perspectives and impacts, and to make sure that we get it right.
Right. Your claim to have the industry input based off a survey, but every indication shows that there was low participation in the said survey. And if you asked my constituents, you would have clearly known about these enormous increases in operating costs that are putting farmers out of business in Louisiana. And can you tell me how many agriculture producers in Louisiana's 5th congressional district answered this survey or provided feedback to you about this rule?
Ms. Letlow, we're going to have to let the acting secretary submit her answers to you in writing. All of us would like to know the answer to that question. Thank you. I recognize the ranking member, Mr. Scott, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Ms. Sue, your life story is an inspiration to some of us, apparently not all. At the announcement of your nomination, it was mentioned that your mother came from China on a cargo ship because she couldn't afford the fare. And later in her life, she talked to the President of the United States, who said that her daughter was going to be nominated as the Secretary of the United States Department of Labor. I mean, the career in between certainly is an inspiration. Now, you maintain your composure and decorum while many spent their time to explain what they would do as senators, which they are not, or challenge you on what you have done to hurt job production even after the administration that you belong to created more jobs in 28 months than any presidential administration has been able to do in a four-year term. They attacked your credit, your character. They attacked your character, but not the record number of jobs you've created. Now, let me just say, get a word in about the independent contractor. A lot has been said about how it hurts independent contractors, but I think you mentioned that if you're misclassified as an independent contractor rather than an employee, you miss out on unemployment compensation, workers' compensation, you miss out on minimum wage and overtime, you miss out on the employer contribution for Social Security, you miss out on health and pension benefits that other employees get. So the employee has a lot of disadvantage in being misclassified. But the employer also benefits with the misclassification because they don't have to pay the Social Security tax, and they save a lot of money on the others, giving unfair competition to those that compete fairly and classify people fairly. You talked about the joint employment rule. The only thing that the franchisees are not hurt by any proposed joint employment rule. It's a franchisor who may be held responsible for what they've done that escape through lax joint employment rules. So although that's not on your agenda, I think that should be clarified. Could you say a word about why you need more money for OSHA inspections?
Thank you very much for that question, Ranking Member Scott. So our OSHA does workplace investigations to ensure that workplaces are safe and healthy and that every worker who goes to work at the beginning of the day returns home. In 2021, there were over 5,000 working people who lost their lives on the job, and at least 2 million who had work-related non-fatal injuries. These are entirely preventable And we should be doing everything we can to make sure that workers don't have to work under unsafe conditions, that a worker who works on a roof.
If you get the allocation you've requested, you'd be able to investigate, you'd be able to visit each business, once in every 100 years?
Right. OSHA's.
If you get the increased allocation, can you say a word about what you are doing for youth employment, particularly disconnected youth?
Yes, thank you so much for that question too, Ranking Member Scott. So as we've talked about here today, young people have the tremendous potential to benefit from the robust economic recovery that we've had and the fact that a large number of jobs that are going to be created will not require a college degree. And so, so we have investments in youth across our workforce system, everything from apprenticeship programs and pre-apprenticeship programs to WIOA-funded youth programs that are going to make sure that young people understand that in this historic moment, we want them also to be able to benefit.
A comment was made about discrimination, religious discrimination in federal employment. Some employers want to be able to discriminate and have a policy of not hiring people of certain religions and still get a federal contract. I would hope you'd do everything you could to avoid that. And could you say just a word about why it's important to increase sanctions for unfair labor practices?
Yes, thank you so much for that question too. So we've talked about child labor here today. What we are seeing in situations where you have really egregious exploitation of young people, that the penalties that we were able to assess in that particular case that had over 100 young people 13 to 17 years old was about $1.5 million. It was now widely considered not to have been enough to deter those violations, and so we're happy to be working with, to respond to requests for technical assistance from Congress about what increased penalties might look like.
And unfair labor practices and organizing?
Right, so that is within the purview of the National Labor Relations Board, which is a separate body from the Department of Labor. We don't have rules about that particular issue.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you so much for your testimony. Madam Chair, can I introduce for the record several comments have been made about the the child labor. You'll note we sent a letter to you a few days ago to schedule a hearing on child labor abuses. And I was delighted to see a colleague from Indiana mention this as an issue, so maybe we could work together to get a hearing on that.
Do you wish to enter the letter
yes,
into the record?
Again, yes.
Without objections, we will do that. I would like to thank our witness for taking the time to testify before the committee today. I made several comments asking that you respond to questions when people had run out of time and way over time sometimes. And I think your staff has probably taken notes. Our staff has taken notes. And so I would appreciate it very much if we could get timely responses to those questions that have been asked. so that we don't we will try to compile something, but, and we appreciate the commitments that were made today, which we will certainly follow up on. Without objection, there being no further business, the committee stands adjourned.